This is iRacing.
Well, the whistle-stop tour for the Porsche Owners Club continues in earnest. We've had 4 rounds of the opening season of 2026. As last time out, back on February 23rd, we visited the Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari. But here, at the old site of the Hendricks Air Force Base, just 70 miles south of Orlando, we head into round number 5 of the Porsche Owners Club Sim Racing League, live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hello everybody, my name's Alex Goldschmidt and I'm going to be joined by Steve Kernick in the booth today. Our director behind the scenes will be Christian Deploy, using cameras supplied by Dougie Beard. The Sebring International Raceway has been a pantheon of modern day and past glories in US and international sports cars. But to give you all a bit of a refresher on this circuit, let's head over to our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Sebring International Raceway. Home to the 12 Hours of Sebring, one of the most grueling tests in endurance racing, this is a track which has earned a fearsome reputation among drivers. The circuit itself is located on the southeastern edge of the city of Sebring, Florida, and was built out of Hendricks Army Airfield shortly after World War II. 3 layouts are currently in use, ranging from 1.7 to 3.7 miles in length. The longest course, which is perhaps the most well-known with it being the one used for the famed endurance race, shockingly still contains portions of the original airfield surface. It's this aspect which has become a signature feature of the track, making it extremely bumpy for racing. Sunset Bend in particular nearly shakes cars apart while they attempt to navigate the high-speed 180-degree corner. As you'd expect for the side of an airfield, there's nearly no elevation change over the course of a lap, but many of the curves are dramatically tall and unforgiving, daring drivers to glance them yet not hit them directly. Thankfully, places to pass are plentiful, including spots like the Hairpin and Cunningham. However, the many fast, sweeping turns creates a dilemma for car setup, since a vehicle that's made too stiff could wind up bottoming out on the onerous bumps. In the end, if you have the wherewithal to withstand the track's rough nature, you're likely to fare well. And since Florida fans almost always show up in huge numbers to witness this test of car and driver, you'll have plenty to impress at this legendary North American road course.
Steve, with regards to Sebring, it needs no introduction, so tell the viewers what the pitfalls are for the drivers here today for round 5.
Well, the 6-kilometer circuit is going to be a bit of a tricky one to deal with. Turn 1 is a bit bumpy on the concrete, so that it's a little bit on the looser side before you head into the complex of corners. From turn 3 to turn 5, it's all about modulating the throttle, but keep an eye as the drivers have to brake extremely hard for the hairpin at turn 7. Generally, you're going to see major spins. And some major overtaking places is going to be turn 17 at Sunset Bend. A little too early on the throttle, we'll see you spinning out and visiting the pit lane. We've seen a couple of drivers suffer from that just in practice moments ago. But this circuit is incredibly fun, incredibly bumpy, but also means that you've got to be incredibly precise with these cars.
Before we get through the championship standings, as qualifying has just been completed, let's not forget our sponsors of the POC Sim Racing League. Of course, first of all, Porsche, there is no substitute. And then, well, we've also got to give a shout out to Top Gun MG, helping financial advisors be the best of the best. Contact them today at topgunmg.com. Now we go into what will be a very interesting 5th round of the series. Here are the standings. BJ Fulton leads on 57 points, and he is not here tonight. Neither is the man who's closely following him, just 11 points behind, Blake Sams. Michael Bolton rounds out your top three, ahead of our resident Australian transplant into the United States. Dylan Scott rounds out your top four. Dustin Heidel, who's shown great account of himself this season so far, rounds out your top five, covered by 21 points. Jad Duncan, DJ Alessandrini, Robert Leclerc, Yoshiki Tani, and Mark Rondeau round out your top 10. Steve, take the folks through what the format will be here tonight for round 5 of the POC Sim Racing League.
So the drivers are going to have to contend with a 40-minute race in these beautiful Porsche 992 Cup cars. It's going to be a rolling start with 2 spare cars. So if you get a ding, don't worry about it. You can get your car fixed, get back on track, and keep scoring points. But being round 5 of 13, it is critical to move forward. You have to score every point possible, especially with how close the championship is. For some, there's a little less room to make crucial mistakes. Got to say, I'm really looking forward to this race, Alex. It's going to be an epic one. However, we have seen Sebring bite the drivers in the past, and seeing where they're going to be moving forward here for the Porsche Sauna Club round 5 race.
Yes, indeed, Steve. Of course, there will be a required pit stop due to fuel limitations on the fuel tanks of the new 992.2 Cup car. No longer the GT3 moniker, but there is the GT3R Evo for you GT3 fans out there, or GTD, depending if you like WEC or IMSA. But qualifying has come to an end. We've got the final 20 seconds, and it looks like Jad Duncan is the fastest out there around this circuit. And more to the point, this circuit itself, it was actually originally a B-17 pilot training base from 1941 to 1946. It was first opened in December of New Year's Eve, 1950. 17 turns. There's going to be a lot of things that we're going to need to keep an eye on, including the bumpiness of the circuit. But here is your starting grid for round 5 here for the Porsche Owners Club Sim Racing League. And Jad Duncan in the number 83 takes pole position by over 0.2 of a second ahead of Dylan Scott. Rob Leclerc and Mike Bolton round out row 2. Mark and Leiden Rondeau round out your top 3 rows on the grid ahead of Dustin Heidel and Chris Marciniak rounding out row 4. Mark Morales and Alan Watts round out the top 10, and we have 15 cars on the grid today. Chris McDuff will start 11th. He'll be joined on row 6 by Jim Garamani. Larry Haas, John Mamare and Adam Abrams round out your 15-strong grid. Now, for those historians of this Sim Racing League will remember, we've run in GT3 and GT4 split categories, but one of the beautiful things that we've had, Steve, is the fact that they're all in the same car, which makes it a little bit more entertaining for everyone involved, including you and myself up here in the broadcast booth.
Well, I absolutely enjoy having a single class, purely because it's a driver's car. You've got to ensure that you get the leg up just by practice and setup. There's no having huge amount of power, and not to take away from this beautiful 992 car, where it's welcoming to new drivers. Because we have new drivers on the grid joining us, it's absolutely wonderful. But you've got to make sure that you can charge up to the front, utilizing slipstreams, utilizing late braking, and also not to be over enthusiastic on the first lap that can land you in the wall. You've got 2 spare cars. The last thing you want to do is, as the drivers round Sunset Bend and aim to the start finish line.
Jad Duncan and Dylan Scott on the front row of the grid as the pace car peels into pit lane, as we are set and ready for round 5 here at the Porsche Owners Club Sim Racing League. We're green here at Sebring for 40 minutes. Jad Duncan trying to keep tight to the inside. Dylan Scott's going to throw it to the outside. He's actually about half a car length in front, and he's got through for the race lead. Michael Bolton looking to strike early as well on Jad Duncan, who's got the student driver livery on the number 83 as they head through into the first of the complex parts of the circuit. Someone taking a way too much curb through on one of the left-handers. I think that might have been possibly, might be Rob Leclerc, might be Mark Rondeau, as it is side by side. Rondeau and Leclerc, wheel to wheel. as we head up to the top part of the circuit. And
Turn 7.
good start though there by Jad Duncan, but Dylan Scott got the jump on him into turn 1.
Through turn 7, everyone just being a little bit more gentle, and Layden trying to move forward. We saw in qualifying he had a little bit of damage to the back end of his car, trying to get used to it, but now trying to push a little bit harder as we've got contact, and one of our Porsches gone into the distance.
Iliak has just gone backwards, and that was, I think, just off of the Fangio chicane, as the number 35 last year, well, the last ever GT4 Porsche Owners Club Sim Racing League champion from season 2. As we head up and to the front end of the field, Rob Leclerc giving Marc Rondeau a bit of a run for his money. And of course, funnily enough, the Porsche Sprint Challenge of North America, powered by Yokohama, this past weekend was in action with the older generation of the cars. Jim Garamani getting his elbows out, dives up the inside of Chris McDuff as they come through out of Le Mans and head down Ullman Straight. And then it is going to be the fact of it could be 3 wide if Larry Haase decides to thread the eye of the needle. He's trying to make some room here. Is the number 3, and he's going to possibly dive to the inside of Garamani in the 163 car. He is going to try and attempt it. He's got through on McDuff by the briefest of margins, but someone might have spun in front. Oh dear, that was Lydon Rondeau, and oh dearie me, around goes Larry Haase coming out of Sunset Bend.
Just cold tires, the bump on the inside sends him going, but now Jim having to defend into turn 1. Both review mirrors getting full, and this is a fight of note for 9th position, that you can be mistaken that it's a fight for first, but Jim Garamani trying to hold the line at the moment, while he's got the likes of Momea behind him, chasing him down. McDuff trying to stick his nose in to move forward as they head up towards turn 7. It's all about keeping the momentum, but the slipstream coming into play. Chris McDuff looks towards the inside. Can he get late on the brakes? Unfortunately not. Has to back out just that little bit more.
Adam Abrams has entered into pit lane. Mechanical black flag for the number 7, who started at the back end of the field. We go to the sharper end of the field, and Jad Duncan is being closed in by the 127 of Michael Bolton. This is the battle for P2. Dylan Scott is now nearly 9.5 tenths of a second up the road in the 08, just behind Marc Rondeau, Rob Leclerc, and Dustin Heindel. I did say Dustin Heindel has really been impressive here in season 1 of 2026. As once again we go down Genderbean Bend. Oh, bit of high side in the air from the left side tyres of Jad Duncan, trying to keep Michael Bolton at bay as they come out of Genderbean Bend and down into Le Mans Curve. And you can see Rondeau, Leclerc and Heindel, the resident cookie monster. That's been a running gag because he's got the Chips Ahoy sticker on both passenger and driver door in the 117 with the googly eyes in between the headlamps. Now through into Sunset Bend as we are on the approach to completing lap number 3. Leclerc sweeping a little bit wide, trying to avoid the bumpiness on the inside. Of course, the Camel GT livery. Rondeau gets very close to the wall on the outskirts of Sunset Bend's exit. Jad Duncan with the fastest lap of the race. Here comes Rob Leclerc with a head full of steam. Up the inside he goes. And can Rondeau keep it around the outside? He's going to possibly have the opportunity. Going through into turn 2, they were nearly panel to panel. Leclerc dives in, late on the brakes. He gets through for 4th position. Great job there by Rob Leclerc. Bounces over the curbs, going through Gurney Bend. But that was a great little move there from the number 13 to take P4.
Just the trust between drivers. It is so difficult through turn 2 all the way to turn 5 just to run side by side. But now Robert needs to start closing up to the front 3. And with 35 minutes left in this race, do you carry on going on the attack, or do you decide, hang on, let's work with our competitors here, let's try and get a little bit closer to the train, considering you're trying to break a 4-second gap? For Dustin Heindel right at this moment, he's not going on an attack to move forward. He has got a little bit of damage to the nose, but rather waiting for his time to move forward, and especially with the pit stop, that is absolutely crucial. Sitting behind a driver, lifting a little bit off, means you save that little bit of gas and can go a little bit longer for the overcut. Michael Bolton, who's in 3rd place, looking for crucial points for the championship, needs to get past Duncan, who is right on his nose and not picking up the pace. He's trying through the final part of the circuit, but just not having an easy time out there. Scott, who is starting to open up that gap little by little by little, wants to stay right ahead. So Dylan Scott, at the moment, with 0.8 to nearly a second through some sections, is more than happy to see these two go and argue it out and can focus on apexes and exits instead of defenses.
The gap between the top three is closing to under a second as we complete lap number 4 here at the 3.741 mile circuit. Lyden Rondeau, picture in picture, manages to get through on John Mamea for P9. Hardest charger at the moment is John Mamea, up 4 places. Started on the penultimate spot on the grid in 14th position. But Michael Bolton and Jad Duncan, they could be in some respects working together a little bit here. What I mean by that, folks, is that at this stage of the race, we're only just under 7 minutes into this 40-minute sprint here at Sebring, and it is about just picking your moments, waiting for the opportunity, for that window to open. So if bit of a sideways moment there as Michael Bolton applies the power. Now these cars do have ABS and traction control. You can just see how well planted these cars are, despite the bumpy undulation of the nature of the tarmac here at Sebring. Rob Leclerc has managed to pull away from Mark Rondeau, who's got Dustin Heindel, the Cookie Monster, right behind him in the battle for P5 and P6. Of course, with this circuit being heavily dependent on handling, Dustin Heindel's aerodynamics are not at its optimum, let's say. But Rondeau, if he keeps on bumping over curbs like that, Steve, it's not going to help his application of traction. But he's pulled away from Dustin Heindel, and he's closing in on Rob Leclerc. The gap is now down to 4.5 tenths of a second as they're heading through Bishop, Genderbean, and now into Le Mans Curve, heading into the final straightaway. The back straight down at Ullman, and again, Rondeau has just lost the back end. I knew it was only going to bite him in the backside, and it just has.
Yeah, you're talking about losing traction. Well, what better way to turn a Porsche into 2 wheels of a motorbike? Unfortunately, now thrown down the field, and also those tire life is going to be absolutely hurt. That means it's going to be a bit of a question of pitting and changing the tires to continue on with the race. Jad at the moment up into second place with Michael Bolton keeping lots of pressure on him. Dylan Scott going and just running wide. It's interesting to see the drivers taking 2 different lines, taking a shallow, more aggressive approach, or just opening the corner up. Many of the drivers trying to find what works for them and their setups to ensure that they can move forward. But also, by getting a bit more aggressive, like Michael Bolton and the likes of Duncan ahead, they are really putting pressure on those tires, trying to maximize the grip. But soon as it's let go, there's not enough room to get it past and keep an easy exit, as we do see Michael Bolton trying his luck into turn 7.
Coming out of the hairpin turn, how's my driving sticker on the back bumper of Jad Duncan's, and then he's also got the Jimmy Broadbent reference, please no Punterino on both doors. Let's talk about creative libel there for the number 83, but again, whilst Dylan Scott has been starting to stretch that advantage, at one point it was under 4 tenths of a second, it's now near on a second as we run on board with Michael Bolton. Everyone out of the 15 drivers that started this race are, as far as I'm aware, still circulating. Adam Abrams, the only individual that has had to take an unfortunate trip down the pit lane early as we run on board with Michael Bolton again. Out of Le Mans, down Ullman Straights. Jim Garamani is trying to recover his way back. John Mamea has been battling away with Chris McDuff, and Mamea is back up to 9th position. So he's made up 5 spots so far. Mark Morales in the number 99, who we have seen in the thick of the action, let's say, with the very, you won't exactly miss the alloy wheels on this 992.2 Cup car. Bright reflective green on the wing mirrors and on the alloy wheels. John Mamea has ended up behind Chris McDuff, but Mamea to the right-hand side of the Ullman Straight. Can he get the over-under here through into Sunset Bend? He dives to the inside, and it's going to be the opportunity here this is actually with, Rondeau's actually, Leiden Rondeau's about 4.3 seconds up the road as we ride on board underneath the centre twin exhausts. These flat 6 4-litre boxer engines producing around about 512 brake horsepower in their new configuration. A slight power uppage as, now McDuff might have to serve a potential slowdown because I did see him cut the circuit ever so slightly. So this might allow Mo Mayer to close back in on McDuff, but then you look just behind John Mayer, there is now the recovering Chris Marciniak, who we saw go off on lap number 1, and he's managed to bring himself back up into 11th position, qualified on the outside of row number 4, as we are just 28.5 minutes left to go here for round 5 of the Porsche Owners Club iRacing Sim League here on the GSRC channel. So don't forget, if you haven't already, give us a like, share and subscribe. Bolton's still trying to put the pressure on Duncan, who in turn is trying to close and chip away at Dylan Scott's advantage. But at the moment, the Australian in the 08, who has also secured title glory here in this league. I think it was, if I remember correctly, he did win the GT3 league late last year, and it came down to the wire. But look at this. Michael Bolton finally has seen the window of opportunity come his way into Sunset Bend. He dives through on Jad Duncan. Now, who's going to get the better run out of Sunset Bend here? Looks like Duncan's got the better momentum coming out of the final corner. They both get close to the left-hand wall on the exit of Sunset Bend. Michael Bolton, for the briefest of moments there, Steve, had just secured second position. And Jad Duncan went, no, you don't. Hold my course light.
Going and just showing his hand at the moment. Mike Bolton lays on the brakes, closes up the distance, hunts for the inside line over the curbs. You did bring up about a slowdown, and that's also something we've got to touch on, because we've seen championships getting turned on its head by incident limits being reached. And on this circuit, it is so easy to get a 1x just by putting a wheel slightly offline, especially through corners 2, 3, 4, and 5, even coming out of 7 into 8. You just put one wheel wrong, that's a 1x, and it slowly builds up. You might not think about it now, but when you suddenly see the dreaded black flag saying drive through penalty, well, then you start to think, I was a little too hard through the corners. In the case of Chad and Michael, who are fighting out for second and third, it's the last thing on their mind, but it can be a crucial factor that might switch him out. And for Michael, he's got to ensure to stay up in that top 3 to maximize positioning. Remember, for the championship, lying in third, he's got both competitors not here. This is his opportunity to move forward in the championship, to get ahead. And at the moment, Dylan Scott's running away.
Oh, Jim Garamani's had that's a bit of an off that you don't want to have at that point on the circuit. And that was coming through in towards, I believe the Fangio chicane at the top part of the track. And Jim, no mowing the grass, please.
A little bit of a turnaround. The one thing with these cars, yes, they've got ABS and traction control, but they're just enough to be driver's cars. And as soon as you get the tail starting to wag underneath you, it's very difficult to try and pull it back into check. So that turns into a bit of a problem. But we got a replay. And this is Alan Watts, late on the brakes, hooks it in on the power a little bit early, and there's the tail stepping out. And monster impact, huge crunch. And that is a Porsche needing to get into the pits, and I do believe that spare car, one of the two, will be pulled out to go and at least see it through to the end. And one Porsche in major need of repairs.
Yeah, Alan Watts, the second driver of the evening that has had a mechanical black flag, the front end on the Lando Special, has been flagged on the live timing. So that'll be both Alan Watts, Jim Garamani, and Adam Abrams have all taken a trip down into pit lane. Right on board with Jad Duncan as Dylan Scott's lead now extends to just over 1.3 seconds at this moment in time. We are now coming along back marker traffic, so that would have been Adam Abrams that both Dylan Scott and Jad Duncan have gotten through on. They're just coming out of the top part of the circuit, so through Tower Turn, now down Flying Fortress into Bishop Bend. And you can see 140 miles an hour, 5th gear, down the gearbox. Who needs telemetry when you've got the LCD display from this wonderful onboard camera shot? 2nd gear, 70 miles an hour. Now accelerates out of Le Mans, 4th gear, 110 miles an hour. Now up to 5th at 125. Let's see, how high can the speed go for Jad Duncan? 150 miles an hour, up to 6th gear. 160 miles an hour before he lets off the accelerator, dabs the brakes down to 3rd gear, trying to get the traction, the bumpy undulation, trying to upset the damper rebound, and he exits the corner at 120 miles an hour in 4th gear. That is how committed you need to be to have a real good push lap around this circuit. Jad Duncan has got the fastest lap of the race so far, a 2-minute 1.775. But he is starting to chip away. That gap is now 1.1 seconds. Make that a second as the relative timing. Leiden Rondeau, in the Komatsu Atlassian Williams Special, has just lost it coming out of Sunset Bend. But at least he had a little bit of differential between himself. It's actually Chris McDuff is going to be one of the first people to actually take a pit stop, and we are not even halfway through this race, so this could set the wheels in motion here, Steve, for the pit stops.
Well, he's going to be the marker for this one. The rest of the drivers that have done their stops has been mainly for mistakes that have gone on. So Chris McDuff opting to avoid traffic and keep on the run. Larry Haas moving his way back up through the order after a bit of a spin. Now trying his utmost best to keep the pressure on Mamea ahead of him, trying to keep in that slipstream. And that's the one thing. The back straight with the slipstream is absolutely crucial for these cars to gain the pace, to get past into Sunset Bend. The rest of the course is so difficult to pass as Larry Haas gets commentator's curse and turned round.
Don't use commentator's curse, Steve. I use fate of circumstance. You were just talking about him, and he was just on the screen. It just happened.
I like that.
Shout out to a fellow good friend from South Africa, Kyle Lawrence. He's got a podcast called Commentator's Curse. I've got Commentator's Corner. He's got Commentator's Curse. I wonder if someone's going to come up with Fate of Circumstance about motorsport commentary as a podcast. Could happen. You never know. But nevertheless, John Mamea trying to close in on Chris Marciniak. Now, Chris Marciniak has got himself up into 9th place. Michael Bolton is the first out of the top 3 in the 127 to dive into pit lane. Now, looking at the stop from Chris McDuff, total pit time 35.9 seconds and a mid 11.7 whilst fueling up. So we're going to see how this is going to bring Michael Bolton into play. This is where the undercut strategy starts, but then Dylan and Jad are going to have to drive these Porsche 992.2 Cup cars like they stole them over the next couple of laps, because sometimes we will find that the overcut will happen depending on how long you go into that stint. You could maybe pull off the 3000 IQ strat and it works to your advantage. We've seen, I think, like at Imola, we had the battle between BJ Fulton and Dylan Scott, and it came down to like literally nothing. Michael Bolton rejoins after 33.1 seconds, and he only fueled for 9.5 seconds, so a very, very quick pit stop for the 127. But the big question will be, is that going to compromise him on fuel, as we are now nearing the halfway point of the race within about the next 10 seconds. And at the moment, air temp 25 degrees centigrade, that's 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Track temp 32 degrees centigrade, 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's mostly cloudy with a wind to the southwest of around about 10 kph, 6 miles an hour. So this is where we'll see how Michael Bolton's lap time will reflect in how the drivers at the sharp end of the field. Oh, Larry Haas has just had a mechanical black flag. Now, I think he's just had an off. So that is going to be a real shame for him. So he's towed the number 3 into pit lane. We did say about the bumpy undulation, didn't we, Steve?
That's it. And let's take a look at the replay and see what happens. Larry Haas in through the right-hander. Oh, looking okay. Oh, just going and losing it into the wall and unfortunately smashing the front end and
Oh dear.
moving out of the way. I think a little bit of frustration as well coming into play for Larry House.
Yeah, well, both the both left side wheels were completely off camber. It was like Herbie's son has just had a bit of a fit coming out of the corner. Of course, the 911 is the grandson of the famed Volkswagen Beetle, made popular by the iconic movie The Love Bug back in the days when Disney was quite a big part of the live action side of things. But good thing to see that Michael Bolton, he's only 32.6 seconds off our race leaders. So I think it's now going to be the case. His outlap was a 2:26. So if he has been the second fastest driver around the track, because between Bolton, Scott and Duncan, they are the only three drivers here today in this race that have done a sub 2:02 so far. And Dylan Scott has a 1.3 second lead over Jad Duncan, who still holds the fastest lap of the race, as they will now make their way down in towards the lower part of the circuit. And that is where things are going to be very, very crucial for Scott, Duncan. They're coming down Almond Straight as we speak. And this is lap number 12. We have 17 minutes and 45 seconds remaining on the timer. And who will be the first one out of these two that will blink and dive into pit lane? We don't know, folks, because we can't tell you. Dylan Scott is going to carry on for another lap. So is Jad Duncan. Then you've got to factor in the likes of Rob Leclerc in third position, Dustin Heindel, Mark Morales, who's up 4 positions. Rob Leclerc getting very, very bouncy coming out of that final corner at Sunset Bend, and he's got the Cookie Monster chasing him down for his resident stash of Chips Ahoy. That, I think, if I remember correctly, that livery made an appearance, its first appearance when we were at Road Atlanta 2 rounds ago. And shout out to fellow GSRC commentator Joe Peake, who I understand is actually on his way back from Sebring to back home. Yeah, we started talking about the Cookie Monster. All the jokes started, and then it went from Chips Ahoy to Oreo. We then started, for some bizarre reason, to talk about Sesame Street, but that's that kind of thing that happens. However, Chris Marciniak is back to where he started. After that first lap incident, Lydon Rondeau goes to the inside of him, late on the brakes. So Marciniak tries to turn in and makes contact with the number 12. But I think Rondeau was being a little bit rambunctious on that attempt, and he's gone dirt hopping right about now.
Pushing the car a little too hard, and I think the red mist has definitely enveloped the driver. You can see far more aggressive lines, just really asking for the car to grip as much as possible as it bounces over the curbing. And we've seen so far, you get too aggressive with these cars, it will get you rotating around, and something Lydon has had in the past. So he's got to be so careful about it. Marciniak, who's got lots of experience underneath his belt, will be just keeping a very close eye on the drive. Remember, they need to still get into pit lane and figure out where they need to be. With 15 minutes to go, there's no reason to go and put too much pressure as Christopher Marciniak deciding he's going to just show his nose once, twice, see if he can aggravate a mistake to come out of Lydon ahead of him.
And another new fastest lap. Jad Duncan is, he is really, really closing in on Dylan Scott. He just put in a 2-minute 1.663. Rondeau is definitely exploring the limits of what a 992.2 Cup car is capable of on iRacing. We're down to the final 15 minutes. And still, we're right on board with Rondeau. And here goes Marciniak to the inside. That was a late dive. Oh, now did Marciniak overcook it? No, he didn't. He absolutely launched it Danny Rick style, did Chris Marciniak. That was a beautiful move to take 8th position away from the number 12. And look, he's got a gap now of a second. He caught Rondeau completely unawares. The number 12 went, oh, I wasn't expecting that.
There was definitely Houston, we have takeoff. going and launching it down the inside. Now Christopher has got to really get going, but take a look at the replay. Down the inside, how he managed to slow the car down enough to make the corner, hit the apex, over the bump even, and just keep his foot planted all the way through to the end. That generally ends two ways, a spin or a kiss with the wall. He managed to find the third option of going and opening up a huge gap. And man, oh man, now he's got to go, because you can be sure the Lydon's going, hang on, you could do that. I could do exactly the same. Jad Duncan chasing down in second place. Dylan Scott, who's been leading out the race, now needs to consider his pit stops because Michael Bolton up into sixth and slowly but surely starting to chip his way back into the fight. These two drivers, remember, whoever pulls in the pits now is going to be setting the bar of where they're going to come out, and they want to ensure they're ahead of Michael Bolton. Jad at the moment, I think, is waiting for Dylan Scott to go in just to try and get rid of the undercut and follow as a react to what happens ahead. But Robert Leclerc, sitting in third place with 16 seconds behind, also has the option of when he can get in the pits to jump the front two.
Yeah, it is going to be rather interesting as the gap has now pendulum swung from what was 3.5 tenths, as we're going to see a battle here. Jim Garamani versus Alan Watts. This is for 12th position. As they fire their way out, you could just see the cars, you know, with the damper rebound and trying to apply the traction on the rear axle. And Alan Watts swarming all over the back bumper of Jim Garamani. And at the moment, the number 15 unable to make it through. But there's still 12.5 minutes to go. Mark Morales has just pitted and will rejoin in 9th spot. 11.35 was his pit stop time. Total transfer time, including the pit stop, 35.4 seconds. Now, the thing is, Dylan Scott and Jad Duncan, if they decide to jump into pit lane, they've got to be quicker than just over 34.8 seconds as it stands. We have 12 minutes remaining on the clock. As now Watts goes wheel to wheel with Garamani, gets the side draft on the number 163. But can Garamani do the crossover? He might attempt it, and he decides no, not on this particular occasion. So Alan Watts continues on his way to move up the order. Considering the fact he qualified P10, he's down 2 spots from where he qualified, 11.5 minutes to go. Michael Bolton is getting closer and closer. I'm looking at the sector times at the minute. Bolton needs to pick up the pace a little bit here. Dylan Scott has just banged in the fastest lap of the race, a 2-minute 1.498. So he now knows here's his opportunity. And what is more prevalent here is that the pair of Garamani and Watts are just up ahead. So this could really help the Australian in terms of his back marker traffic situation, which means if he can put a car or two between himself and Jad Duncan, it puts Jad Duncan more into the clutches of Michael Bolton.
I've got to say, Alan Watts, after going and smashing the nose of the car, having a little bit of a bottle moment, to quote a nickname from Lando Norris. But I've got to say, for Dylan Scott, this is also a high-pressure situation because it can back him up into Jad and also cause a bit of a loss, as we do see a number of drivers coming in. Lydon into the pits, Marciniak, and also both Rondos coming into the pit lane. So decision made, let's get the car sorted out, get back out. You will also note that a couple of drivers will actually go and leave the fast repair on for their pit stop, just to ensure they get that second car absolutely perfect and head out as they make their way through. Just to any little bumps and nicks that they may have incurred, get rid of it. You've got a second car to play with if there is a bigger accident, but you want to have the best as you get towards the end. Alan Watts leads out that little fighting pack, but now needs to keep a very, very close eye on his. Dylan Scott has an option here. Go and try and overtake or dive into the pits. Jad coming off a lot out of the slipstream. I've got a funny feeling we're going to see second going and diving into pit lane here. And Dylan Scott, who is into pit lane, so is Jad.
So they've covered each other off. Now, this is where the race begins. Who is going to be a bit further up in the pit lane? Michael Bolton comes out of Le Mans and down the Almond Straight as the delta between the two at the sharp end of the field. Neither of them have started yet to refuel. Well, Dylan Scott has already. Jad Duncan might be a little bit further down pit lane. Michael Bolton making his way through. Rob Leclerc and Dustin Heindel, they've also come into pit lane. 8.9 seconds for Dylan Scott. It's going to be a run out of pit lane into turn number 1. Here comes Michael Bolton. He could be very, very close to them as he makes his way so close to the wall, sweeps it into turn 1, and he finds himself 5.5 seconds adrift of race leader Dylan Scott. Dylan Scott's pit stop time total 32.6 with an 8.9 second pit stop time, and he pips Jad Duncan by over a tenth to stay ahead by just about 1.4 seconds, which was the gap that the two had when they came in. But at this point, Michael Bolton, his last lap was a 2-minute 2.3. He now really needs to start reeling them in because we've got 8 minutes to go until the checkered here for round 5 of the Porsche Owners Club Sim Racing League here for 2026.
Dylan Scott didn't utilize the auto fuel on the iRacing. So for those at home, you do have auto fuel and you can set your parameter to give an extra lap or lap and a half. Dylan Scott didn't do that. That's why it was a little bit quicker, but he's risking that he is going to run right to the end of it. If he uses a litre more, he's in for a world of hurt. Robert Leclerc in 5th place at the moment, just trying to keep himself all in check and wants to see it through to the end. A little bit squeamish on the exit in the Camel GT. But this brings an interesting factor. You're relying on your fuel per lap to be absolutely perfect. Nothing too much. And Rob Leclerc's actually got damage to the front right.
Oh, right. That is not that. Oh no! Look, it's the right rear. Look how deep, that right rear wheel. That is heavily damaged for Rob Leclerc. So that is going to cause problems for drive shaft, upright. That car might start to crab very shortly if Rob Leclerc's not careful enough. But I'm wondering how that all occurred because the Camel GT liveried Porsche, of course. If anyone might remember the Camel GT series that we have in the past, broadcasted here on GSRC, but that right rear wheel is not compliant. Rob Leclerc is still going on. Maybe, I mean, you can see that the car is wanting, the left side is wanting to pull that rear end across the circuit. And let's have a look at the replay here of what happened. So, who is that behind him? I think he's just... Oh, Rob Leclerc's just got on. All right rear's taken an absolute wallop in the barriers, and that was off of turn 2. And that is where the problem started. Just behind him was Larry Haas. So, Rob Leclerc has lost out to Mark Morales. Meantime, at the moment, the top 3 are covered by just over 5.8 seconds. So Dylan Scott has... Oh, look at the steering. Rob Leclerc, that is full left arm down, as we would call it here in the UK.
That is a Porsche NASCAR special. That's for certain. You know, NASCAR has moved the chassis at an angle to make sure it gets left-handers right. I think Porsche attempt here is okay, but on a right-hand course, it might be a little bit more tricky. But I've got to give it up to Robert. This is not an easy car to drive right now, and to go with wheel damage, knowing that you have 2 spare cars, the 0 quick to go and see it through to the end broken, you've got to take your hat off to the driver. Most drivers would be in the wall and crying right now. For Robert, it's, well, hold my drink, watch this. I'm going to get this across the line. This is bragging rights of, yep, I got that little bit of wheel damage, but don't count me out just as yet. And hoping, if he gets a top 10 for this, I think this should be an extra point of a well-done moment. But he's building up those X's every time he goes off circuit that can go through a drive-through penalty in the last 4.5 minutes of the race. So the last thing you want to get is a drive-through penalty. Now, it's not mechanical for the damage. that a mechanical flag, if you go back to days gone past of iRacing, this would be you pretty much outside the race and someone parked it in pit lane.
Right, okay, that is going to be a bit of a tall order for Rob Leclerc. He's got 4 minutes, so he's got 2 laps of the circuit left to go. Larry Haas has come in, mechanical black flag, and oh, that car is, oh dear, that is crabbing. Mark Rondeau's lost it coming out of Sunset Bend. Well, we did say about the bumpy undulation of this circuit, and as the drivers get more physically and mentally exerted over the course of the 40 minutes here at Sebring for round 5, we're going to have a look at the replay from Mark Rondeau. Back end, just step out under. Oh, when he takes out a couple of cones for good measure on pit lane exit, lights up the rear tyres. Mark, are you trying for your Travis Pastrana audition for the next Gymkhana, maybe?
Well, I do want to point out that Larry Haas went and closed pit lane for a little bit as well. So maybe it was that moment of, well, can't really get in. Take a look. Larry Haas comes around, has the exact same moment, spins out, slides into pit lane, a little impact against the wall, and pit lane is now closed for anyone wanting to attempt. Not too far, we saw Rondeau suddenly seeing Larry Haas there. I mean, it's a bit of a moment, very easy to do through Sunset Bend. It doesn't matter what car you're in. Formula, Prototype, GT3, all these beautiful 992s. It's so easy to get out of shape and lose a lot of time. But now we're into the crucial stages. Dylan Scott, who's led from start to finish, well, getting towards finish now, has to keep ahead of Jad Duncan, who's been closing up the distance for Bolton. Third place in the points is not bad, but he does want to get a couple of extra points underneath his belt to carry over to round 6.
Yeah, the last lap time's 2 minute 2.8 for Dylan Scott, 2 minute 2.1 for Jad Duncan. And it seems like the last sector is where Jad Duncan is really catching Dylan Scott. But the thing is, Dylan Scott only put 8.9 seconds worth of fuel in. So he might just be getting that car to the end to get the maximum haul of points here for round 5. So still plenty of races to go in the schedule here for the Porsche Owners Club Sim Racing League, live here on GSRC. You can just see that gap is closing ever more, but not by much. Jad Duncan, I don't think, well, Dylan Scott started responding. He's just gone nearly 2 tenths quicker in the opening sector. A high 36.3 for Dylan Scott, a high mid 36.5 for Jad Duncan on sector number 1. And next time round, excuse me, we could have the white flag lap.
I think he's just gone and folded in his mirrors and just going and giving it his absolute all. Jad Duncan trying everything he can to close up the distance. You can see utilizing all of the circuit that's available to him to try and carry as much momentum. The question is, can Dylan Scott cope with the pressure right now? Can Jad Duncan go and keep with the pressure? Because one mistake from him means Michael Bolton is into second place and gaining time. And you could see the difference in lines. Jad going a lot tighter through Sunset, trying to keep up some momentum, but Dylan Scott goes out wide, a risky approach that can carry a lot of momentum, but it also risks you going onto the marbles and can lose the rear end even more. So it's just who can cope with the pressure right now on the final lap. Crucial time to get it right or go and lose out here at Sebring.
So we are now on the 21st and final lap of round 5 of the Porsche Owners Club Sim Racing League here at Sebring International Raceway. Dylan Scott has led from the moment he took the lead away from the man behind him, Jad Duncan, who put it on pole by over 2 tenths of a second. It has been one of those drives where you might say, yeah, well, Dylan Scott's been quite dominant. Well, you might think that 1.7 seconds is being dominant. Here at Sebring, it is a truly tough circuit. And some of the circuits we're going to, including our only 90-minute race of the series, which will head to the Nürburgring on May 18th. That will be a 90-minute race where there'll be 2 times the points available. There are quite a few circuits that will challenge these drivers in these new generation Cup cars, the ones that are now being used, and for 2027 in real life will be across 35 one-make Carrera Cup and Sprint Challenge series across the globe. But Dylan Scott has not put a foot wrong here tonight. One of the quickest pit stops, if not the quickest pit stop, and with it has also got the fastest lap of the race. He makes his way down Ullman for the final time, and when the dust settles here at Sebring, there is one man that has stood up above everybody else. And through into Sunset Bend he goes for the 21st and final time. It is a lights out to checkered flag victory as Dylan Scott powers out of the final corner here at Sebring, and he will win and go to victory lane here at Sebring ahead of Jad Duncan. Michael Bolton will round out your top three. He's now coming out of Sunset Bend and powering across the line and will finish 7.1 seconds behind Jad Duncan. Well, I have to say, Dustin Heindel has again showcased how good he has been, how consistent he has been this series. We are waiting for him to make his way through out of the final corner, and the Cookie Monster takes another top 5 finish, finishing P4. Mark Morales with his best result of the series so far, and he's one of the hardest chargers of the night. Mark Morales takes P5. Rob Leclerc takes 6th. As Barney, our flag marshal, on the start-finish straight, waving
right now.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be suing iRacing for repetitive strain injury, I think, at this point, with that flag waving. But still, what a great way for Dylan Scott to grab the bull by the horns here at Sebring. Didn't put a foot wrong. Mark Rondeau comes across the line. I have to say, one of the best comeback drives I've seen in a very, very long time. Chris Marciniak, lap 1, was into the gravel, off of the barriers, and ends up finishing in 8th place where he qualified. Lydon Rondeau will come across the line, started P6, will finish 9th, and John Momea, who equals Mark Morales as the 2 hardest chargers of the night, up from 14th on the start, finishes 10th. Chris McDuff in the number 14 car will come across the line and take 11th. We've already had Jim Garamani, Adam Abrams and Larry Haas complete the race, but Alan Watts and the Lando Norris Special will be making his way through into Sunset Bend for the final time. It's not been an easy one for the number 15, but he makes his way safely through Sunset Bend. A little bit of damage on the rear end of the number 15, as he will come across the line and be our last classified finisher here at Sebring. Let's take you through the results of round 5 here at this fantastic racetrack. Dylan Scott, the winner after 21 laps, by 1.3 seconds ahead of Jad Duncan. Michael Bolton rounds out your top 3. Dustin Heindel takes 4th, ahead of Mark Morales, with Rob Leclerc, Mark Rondeau, Chris Marciniak, Lydon Rondeau and John Momea rounding out your top 10. We then go over the page. Chris McDuff takes 11th, ahead of Alan Watts, with Jim Garamani and Adam Abrams finishing 1 lap down off of our leaders, with Larry Haas, who was one of the first people to have a mechanical black flag in this race, ends up 2 laps off of our leaders. So,
putting on a great show, but Alex, you going and catching up with a couple of our drivers after their race.
Well, first of all, our winner for round 5 of the series, brilliant pass around the outside of Jad Duncan by this man here, Dylan Scott. Lights out to checkered, buddy. And it's not an easy track that you've been able to achieve that here tonight.
No, it's a bumpy one for sure. And of course, Jad and Bolton kept me completely honest. And given the hectic night that I'm having, I will take it. I got a good jump at the start. I was watching, the speed we were doing. We were kind of at the top end of second gear. I was contemplating to grab third right as the green went, and I just put my foot down, and I actually didn't know where Jad was. So kind of just gave it a bit of a wide berth, and next thing I saw him in the mirror, and I said, all right, I'll take it any way I can get it. So they kept me honest, though. They did not allow any mistakes, those guys. Can you please talk to them and tell them, right? Like slow down a bit or something?
I was going to say to them maybe to pump the brakes a little bit when we go to Adelaide for, where we go to your home turf, effectively, Adelaide on March 23rd. But still, a win here at Sebring, like you said, Jad and Michael, they kept you very, very honest. I think at one point the gap between all three of you was about 6 to 7 tenths of a second. So it wasn't easy, but
Nope.
I think you did actually catch Jad napping a little bit on the start, because like literally we saw you fly around the outside and I went, in my mind, I went, Dylan's got this.
That's
Like
it.
as in
Yeah.
turn one, but I wasn't too sure about the race because it was quite close on the pit stops too, because you and Jad jumped in at the same time to cover each other off, whereas Michael went a bit early. He went in, I think it was lap 11 he went in, and you guys had only been in for, you guys had stayed out for a little bit longer. I mean, how was it managing all the fuel round here at Sebring, because it can be quite a fuel heavy circuit?
Yeah, I told Jad at the beginning of the race I was gonna, because he put it on pole, I was gonna pull out my inner BJ and do the fuel saving, and then of course I got the jump at the start, and I thought, oh my god, he's gonna do the fuel saving on me. So, I just had to keep it like it was hot. Any attempt to go fast meant you went slow. So in fact, I found myself thinking, oh, I've slowed the car too much, and then I'd pull a gap by a tenth. So, it was really one of those nights of going slower meant going faster. So, I tried to manage it. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, so I'll take it.
Well, Dylan, congratulations on the victory here for round 5 of the series. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to in particular?
I have a little munchkin here who would like to say one quick thing. What do you got?
My dada is the best.
Oh, there you go. I got my own cheer squad.
Bless. Brilliant. Well, Dylan,
Thank you,
congratulations on the win, and we'll see you for round 6 on March 23rd at Adelaide.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, big thank you there to Dylan Scott, our winner for round 5, and I think very shortly, Steve, you've got alongside with you Jad Duncan, our runner-up here tonight for round 5.
Mr. Duncan, well done on second place. Hard-fought fight. How are you feeling after that? First battling against Dylan Scott, then the mad rush between yourself and Michael Bolton for the early portion of the race. How are you feeling?
Exhausted. I have my fan going. I'm hot and sweaty. That was a lot of fun and a lot of work.
Now take us through going side by side through turn 2, turn 3, turn 4 on Sebring, which is naturally a very, very bumpy circuit, and really risking it for the biscuit just to hold on to that second place. I mean, you had to have a lot of trust that Michael will keep it on the inside, keep it together without going door-to-door banging.
Yeah, I think we all respect each other. We're not going to do anything too crazy. It was tough to focus on Dylan with Michael on my bumper, so I really was happy when he pitted there so I could focus forward, but I was not happy with my driving. I just made too many little 10th mistakes here and there. It was really frustrating.
Well, you are still battling back and forth for the fastest lap time here on the circuit. What's the game plan heading into the rest of the championship now that you got the momentum after coming second here at Sebring?
Unfortunately, I have some family issues. I think I'm just going to have to enjoy the races I can do and hang out with my friends whenever I can. I think I'm going to give the championship to Dylan, I'm afraid, but we'll see how it goes. Maybe things will change with my drops. I can attend enough, but he's going to be hard to beat. He's a good driver.
That is a bit of a blow to see you're going to be sitting out of some. But before we let you go, anyone you want to go hello to in the virtual grandstands, or anything you would like to say to your fellow competitors sharing the track with you?
It's a pleasure to be with everyone. Hello to my dad. I look forward to watching your coverage of this tomorrow. It's always fun and entertaining, so I appreciate all the work you do for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chad Duncan, taking second place here at Sebring for round 5. But, Alex, you have lined up the interview with the man in third and fighting for a championship.
What's up, it was a tall order. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, it was a tough one tonight, wasn't it, buddy?
Yeah, I pulled the Ferrari. Really what happened was I think I overcooked the tires behind Jad and just was sick of looking at his rear bumper, so decided to pit early, and I don't think that was the right call.
Yeah, I mean, you ended up, I think, what was it? You pitted about 6 laps before the guys in front did. So it's a tough call to make, isn't it? When you're you know, at some points we were seeing you, Jad, and Dylan being about 0.7 of a second apart. And Dylan actually said, "Can you tell the other guys just to sort of slow down, pump their brakes a little bit?" I said, "Well, I might do. Just depends on how I feel." But that's the thing. I think now that we've now completed the first 5 rounds of this first schedule for 2026 in the Sim Racing League. And now that everyone's in the same car, we're seeing some people really, really get to grips with it. I mean, yourself, Dylan, and Jad are doing it. I mean, Dustin, we have to say, has really, really upped his game as well. And I mean, he finished P4, started 7th, and he's been a very, very consistent driver as well. I think it's been a nice change for everyone here at POC to go into the new 992.2 Cup car, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's a lot of things to learn in this car. The more seat time we get, the faster we go. But this is the bumpiest car on the bumpiest track, and definitely kept you on your toes. But the next track we go to, I have no idea what it is. I got to add it to the cart, so that'll be an interesting one for myself and probably for all of us. But I'm looking forward to it. Looks like a fun track.
Well, unfortunately, we go to Dylan's home backyard, Adelaide, on March 23rd for round 6. So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting how everyone sort of knuckles down, because at least there's a couple of weeks break in between, but there is still a lot going on because we all have personal lives to get on with, family life, and you know, just life in general, because it's one big perpetuating circle. But still, nevertheless, P3 is a good haul of points at a very, very difficult track.
Thank you very much. I'll take the points, and I appreciate you guys. Shout out to my wife Gabby, my family, 2 pups, and I will see you guys on the next one.
Okay, Michael, thanks for your time as always. We'll see you in 2 weeks for round 6 at Adelaide.
Thank you.
Well, that really wraps up everything here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. Firstly, we have to say a big thank you to our sponsors of the Porsche Owners Club Sim Racing League. First of all, Porsche, there is no substitute. Also, to Top Gun MG, helping financial advisors be the best of the best. Contact them today at topgunmg.com. A big thank you to the team behind the scenes, to Steve, to Christian, and to Dougie. Well, coming up on the Global Sim Racing Channel, the Porsche Owners Club Sim Racing League heads to the Adelaide Street Circuit on the 23rd of March 2026. And also, if you might have caught the news quite recently, there's been a big development, because Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Northeast will start on Wednesday the 18th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern at this very track for the first of 6 rounds. The next show will be this coming Friday for the Grand Prix Tour that will head to Mugello, Skippy Barber, and then Grand Prix Legends. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and tuning in for this coverage of the Porsche Owners Club Sim Racing League. And until next time, race hard, race fair, and if in doubt, well, you better go flat out. Thanks for tuning in. Good night.
This is iRacing.